Good afternoon or good morning, wherever you are, and welcome to the latest in the webinar series. Today's topic for discussion is how to ship freight in and out of Russia with a nod to how the pandemic is influencing the process. My name's Alf Torrance, I'm the Executive Director of the RBCC, and today's speaker are from Aztek International Freight and NH Logistics. I'm delighted to welcome Theodora Shrews, CEO of NH Logistics, Nick Driver, Managing Director at Aztek International Freight, and Simon Alexander, Sales Manager at Aztek International Freight. Thank you, as always, to all our RBCC members and friends who have taken time out from their busy schedules to join us today. Before we start, I will just run through the ground rules for today's webinar. After I finish, we'll have the presentation. I'm sure many of you will want to put questions to Theodoros, Nick, and Simon. Please use a chat room function to do so. Myself and my team will be monitoring the chat room, and we'll try and pick out the more popular themes to put to the panel of expert speakers afterwards. As always, we'll have everyone on mute during the presentations. If you are going to ask a question, please don't forget to take yourself off mute. And as importantly, please put yourself back on mute once you've finished. And as is traditional, we will record this webinar for posterity and we post it on the website tomorrow. Theodoros, Nick, Simon, very warm welcome and thank you for agreeing to talk to us today. In my very limited experience on the subject, I know that moving freight can be a very bureaucratic and if you're an SME or an individual, very anxious experience. We're all very much looking forward from hearing how the practitioners would advise to do it and how to avoid the various pitfalls. Over to you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Go on.
Okay. Thank you, Alf, for the introduction. A little bit confusion here. I think it makes sense if I first introduce myself so people know who I am and what I do in life. So my name is Theodora Shrews. I'm actually Dutch, but left Holland 28 years ago. So I lived abroad a long time, 8 years in England actually, and 13 years in Russia. So I spent all my time in logistics, which is now about just over 40 years. So pretty long time. And in 2001, I lived in Russia and I decided to start my NH Logistics because I saw that there was a need for different types of logistics in Russia. So next to that, I created a company called Frans Maas, a very large European logistics company. That was in 2002 until 2006. So we did all the warehousing and the normal standard logistics things. 2006, DSV took over this company. So basically, the DSV company in Russia is the successor of what I created in Russia for this big Frans Maas company. So, but my company, NH Logistics, we are a typical freight forwarder. We call ourselves a foreign trade specialist. A little bit later, I will tell you more after Nick and Simon introduce themselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Theodoros. Yeah. Once again, Al, thank you very much for that good introduction. I'll put on the screen a presentation, if that's okay. Save you looking at us. So hopefully that's visible for everybody. Yeah. Yeah. So Theodoros just gave his quick introduction there. Moving on to the next screen. As it states there, I'm the Managing Director of Aztek International. Been in forwarding, like Theodoros, over 40 years. The fledgling company was started in 1989, and we've since moved on. We've got 3 offices here in the UK, and we are very adaptable. And I would say when communism came down in Central Europe, that's when we saw an opening in the market, and we've been one of the foremost freight forwarders in the UK for Eastern Central Europe and carrying on right to this day. And we've forged a very good alliance with Theodoros, and we hope to continue that, and we can explain that a little bit further as we go through the presentation. Thank you.
Yep, and I'm Simon Alexander. I've been the sales manager here for near enough 11 years now. But I've been in the shipping industry since the mid-90s. And ever since I've joined, I've always been, I suppose devoted is the wrong word, but involved with Eastern Europe, Russia, and the CIS states. But of course, today's discussion is going to be really focusing on Russia.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. So Theodoros, do you want to?
Yes, thank you, Nick. So as I mentioned before, we are not a standard logistics company. We work in the foreign trade sector. So in 2001, when I started this company, I noticed that especially foreign companies, but not exclusively, Russians also, have a need for a company that gets involved in the transaction and not just into the freight. Because a lot of people scared of customs. Yeah, the certification process, everything is pretty complicated. So we decided it was time to work in a separate niche in the logistics industry. Can I have the next slide, please, Nick?
Yep, sure.
So about us, basically, we are also doing normal freight for our partners. We are in the network like Link that Nick will explain about a little bit later. So we have partners in 150 countries all over the world. It's not our core business. We help our partners if they have shipments into Russia, and our partners help us if we have a collection to do, because we offer modular services to our customers. So if our customer says, I want you to take care of everything, then I have to do the transportation as well. And I use the partners in our networks. If the client says, I only want you to be involved in the transaction for the importation, customs clearance, certification, then we don't need the transportation. So transportation for us basically is a byproduct. So this business proved actually, the model proved pretty successful. So we opened offices in Minsk. We are also in Kiev, Almaty, Baku, Tashkent, and the latest one is Chisinau. And the 1st of October, we opened an office in St. Petersburg because we also want to be closer to our clients in St. Petersburg. Nick?
Okay. This just gives you a brief oversight of Aztek International. We're based, Simon and I are based in the Basildon office just outside London. We've got 2 northern offices, one in Bradford and one in Manchester. And for the last 9 years, we've been members of Link Global Network, which is independent agents that we work together, as Theodoros said, in many countries around the world. It's a network which is different because Theodoros will be the only member for Russia. We are the only member for the UK. We then get to know one another really well. Other networks have several agents per country. This is completely different, which is why we like it. And it enables us to really get to know companies like NH Logistics, and let's sit down and see where we can go in the market and what can we do to provide a niche service in a complex market such as Russia. So with our background and history, we can move cargo all over the world by any mode of transport. And when it comes to Russia, yep, we can do sea freight, air freight, and road freight. And when the cargo arrives in Russia, then that's when Theodoros takes over with his expertise to help the Russian companies get through the bureaucratic system that they have there and make it as easy as possible. So that's why we come from 2 ends of the spectrum in this. We look after the transport, and Theodoros can obviously look after the paperwork within Russia. And that also goes as well for Russian exports coming to the UK. That is a very important market. And I think sometimes that gets lost. Most people think that we would be exporting to Russia, but there is a hell of a lot of cargo that comes out of Russia for the UK. As I mentioned, we're part of the same international network. I had to retire from the board because after 4 years, but I've been a board member for 4 years, pushing this network forward. Met Theodoros, thought it'd be excellent to have a Russian member, and so it's proved.
Yes, let's look back at the services that my company offers. The certification, customs clearance, and foreign trade, we will go into much more detail a little bit later. The first one, the cargo transportation. So we look after all the needs of the client. We can do air freight, we are IATA agent. We can do sea freight, we can do road transportation. So basically whatever kind of transportation the company, the client needs, we can provide that. We have offices in 7 countries ourselves. So that, of course, is very easy for us to deal with the other countries, Moscow to Tashkent, Moscow to Chisinau. That's the big advantage if you work with your own people. But second best is, of course, the network that we are in. Our partners from Link, for example, in all the countries in the world where we have clients and where we collect goods. The business that we are is unfortunately very much the saw. Today we are very busy, tomorrow there's nothing to do, because the kind of business that we have is not a constant business. It is just when the need is there, it's there. If the client only has normal shipments, then there is no need for us. So I thought I have to fill these empty hours. So beginning of the year, I decided that unaccompanied baggage could be a very good addition to the services that we offer, because baggage is not easy. Customs have a lot of questions, you know, and this is pretty complex customs clearance, so that fits with us. Unfortunately, then Corona started, so now I have this beautiful service, but nobody travels, so there is not so much baggage moving. So that so far is not a great success, but I'm sure it will be after all this is over. The next one that we have is cold chain logistics. So we introduce transportation of perishables and pharma, mainly clinical trials. So we are buying now temperature controlled trucks. The first one has arrived in Moscow. The second one will be in Kiev, third one in Tashkent. And after that, we roll it out to each of the offices, because the countries where we work, in many cases, are big perishable exporters, like Uzbekistan, Moldova, Azerbaijan, Ukraine also. So they export a lot of perishables, and temperature control, I think, will do very good for us. The last other kind of service that we do is small scale warehousing. Again, not standard. In France, I did the big warehouses, 10, 20, 30,000 meters, you know, bigger stuff. Now I don't want that anymore. We have small warehouses of a few 100 square meters and very special clients. So we have, for example, clients who need forward stocking locations. You sell a big installation in Russia, there also have to be parts somewhere. The client says, not my problem. You give the warranty, it's your problem. Where do you go? Our company imports these parts, keep the stock for you, and when necessary, we deliver to the location where there is a problem. So, and this can happen very, very fast. So this is a matter of hours. If you have to send it from, for example, Britain, do the customs clearance, you're talking a week to 10 days. You know, which for many clients like data centers or whatever is just absolutely impossible, is unacceptable. So that is a service that we offer in the small scale warehousing. We do also small internet shops, the ones that don't fit with the big providers, because if you only need 10 meters and you have 30 SKU, you're not interesting for nobody. But for us, you are, because that's the kind of projects that we like. We also can be the importer of a record for these internet shops. The last thing that we do with the warehousing is price fulfillment. We do for a large consumer brand, we do their sweepstakes. So they do these kind of lotteries with their buyers, with the consumers. And then we basically do the price fulfillment. So we import the prices like Sony speakers or PlayStations or whatever the price might be. We import them in our name. We keep them in our warehouse. We contact the winners on behalf of this consumer company, because the winners in Russia have to pay taxes over their prices. And of course, as a consumer company, you don't want your client end up in a situation where he wants something and then has to go to the tax office to declare it. So we do that for our client. So we contact the winner, ask his details, and we make the declaration for him, and we pay the taxes for him. So the client is totally happy, totally relieved. He just gets his price at home and finished. So this is the kind of stuff that we like. Nothing standard, all out of the ordinary, all special. Can I have the next slide, please, Nick? Now, Russian customs clearance, very, very interesting. Again, we are not so much interested in the standard customs clearance. So 10 containers with toilet paper, not so big challenge for us. If you have a firewall with encryption, that's interesting. So that's the kind of stuff that we like. We do exhibition goods. If you have goods on an ATA carnet, we are perfect with that. We do replacement parts under warranty. So again, if the client has a machine that breaks down, new part has to be delivered, you know, who is going to be the importer? Because the client will say, I'm not interested. You know, it's your problem, it's your warranty, you solve it. Then we step in, we become the importer of record, import the parts and deliver them to the client. Post materials, point of sales materials, everybody thinks this is pretty simple stuff. Well, to import into Russia, it's not simple stuff. Customs have a lot of questions about these things. And if you're not a specialist, you will never get it out of customs. So that's what we do. And then, of course, Ddp shipments. We are, I expect now, one of the biggest Ddp providers in Russia. We handle a lot of these kind of shipments, mainly IT. So we import for all the big names in Silicon Valley. Sooner or later, they find us. So we work for Microsoft, for Amazon, for Netflix, for Snapchat, all of them. And so if they have something complicated, they come to us. For the simple stuff, container full of printers from China, they don't come to us. You know, that is not our business. Can I have the next slide, please, Nick?
Yep.
Then another bone of contention, of course, in Russia is the certification. Russia does not accept any certificate from anybody, only their own. So if you have your European certificates or your American certificates, all beautiful, everything will be great with your project, but the Russian people say, sorry, we need our own certificate before you can import. So we employ our own specialist. So we can do the standard conformity documents, the declarations and the certificates. Certificates, of course, problematic because to get a certificate, you have to do testing and then you have to send a sample for this testing, you know. So if you have a unique object that you only are going to sell in Russia once, it becomes pretty complex, you know, because then you have to send a sample of this unique object to get tested. A little bit complicated. So we do also the hygiene certificates, fire safety. If you're in the building industry, you sell to Russia, you will know all these kind of things. Fire safety testing, you know, wonderful. If you have electronic equipment for measuring, pattern approvals, or medical equipment, also very interesting certification process. So we have the specialists, we help with that part of the business as well. The next slide, please, Nick. Now, talking about complex, this is complex. You know, Russian customs clearance is a problem, even if you have one product. To bring something like this in with thousands of parts, it's a major project. So this is a roller coaster that is actually in Sochi. So we imported this for the 2014 Olympic Games. And that was a job. That was a big job. But we managed, you know, it's there. So we break it all into pieces, container by container, did the customs clearance, get the staff on site, got it all built up, and it was ready in time, and client very, very happy. But to try to bring this in, really, if you're not a local specialist, you have no chance at all. So that's one of the problems that we solve for the clients. Can we have the next one, please, Nick?
And it's still standing, Theodoros?
Yes, it's still standing, my friend.
Good.
The labor is, thank God, not my responsibility. I'm only responsible for bringing this thing into Russia. And then when it is on the side, basically my responsibility stopped. We help the client with the cranes, you know, and all the kind of stuff that they need locally. So we are very happy to support with that as well. Actually, at the moment, we do another 2 for the city of Moscow. City of Moscow has a very interesting plan with the Park VDNH. They are building the Park Budysky, the Park of the Future. And in that Park of the Future, there will be 2 indoor roller coasters. We are importing them. And at the moment, project is on hold, as I believe there are some financial questions about the project, like it happens in many more projects. So I expect that by next summer, they will pick it up again and we can bring in the last pieces, because I think 75% is already inside Russia. And the other 25%, the electronics, the little wagons that go on these roller coasters, that still have to be done. But first there has to be some money flow, I think.
Okay.
So in the time that I work in Russia, you know, I speak with many companies. What we see that foreign, especially foreign companies, but also Russian companies, they just find it all too difficult and they just don't want to do this customs clearance job. So we have a Russian client, very wealthy person. He is an industrialist. He has factories where he makes confectionery, cakes, you know, all this kind of stuff. He decided that he wants to do tea rooms and ice cream parlors where he can also sell his own products. He tried to import the equipment from Turkey and Italy. It's real all nice, beautiful stuff. Got stuck in customs, had a horrible experience with customs and said, I will never do this again. So he came to us and he said, can you do this job for me? And we said, yeah, great. Now we imported, I think, his 5th ice cream parlor from Italy. I think his prices must be very high. I think his price was about €500,000. So I think for your ice cream, you have to pay €15, otherwise you'll never make money, but never mind. But we brought in the vitrines, you know, all the machines, all the lighting, everything for these ice cream parlors. And the client has to do nothing. We step into the transaction as the importer. Everything goes via us. We buy the equipment, we import it, we do the certification, we sell it at a fixed price to the end client. So he knows how much he's going to pay and knows that everything is taken care of. If something goes wrong, it's my problem. So it's very good for the client to have this good feeling. So the term DDP is becoming very popular because it means basically that all the responsibility is with the sender of the goods and the receiver can just sit and wait until his goods arrive. For the foreign company, of course, there comes the complication because then the foreign company has the responsibility of doing the transaction. They come to us, hopefully. Yeah, many companies do. Again, we step into the construction and solve the issue for the client. We import and we sell to the end user, or we bring it to the end user in case of warranties. We do a lot of business for data centers. So something breaks down, nobody's going to pay for the goods. It's a warranty shipment. We import free of charge. We pay the taxes, the VAT, everything that has to be done. We deliver to the data center. So that's the kind of business you can do under DDP schemes, which will make life a lot easier for the clients. A lot of Russians don't want to get involved because they know their own people, they know what can happen. If you do a little bit wrong in Russia with the customs, so they say, shipper, you want to sell something to me, you solve this for me. If you can offer this as a standard term from your company to your buyers in Russia, I think you will have a major advantage in the market. At least that's what we see from the quantity of shipments that move under DDP.
I mean, to endorse Theodorus's point there, we act for a very large company that makes generators, and several times, unfortunately, their generators break down in Russia, and under the warranty agreement, the manufacturer has to replace the generator. And as Theodorus is saying, the Russian company just wants the new generator on their doorstep, and no information flow, does not want to get involved, no payment of any taxes or duties. Their argument is, well, it's free of charge because it's failed the warranty, so you just deliver it to our doorstep. So we arrange the collection, we do the transport, we get it to Russia. Theodorus acts as the importer to get the generator through customs, all the paperwork's done correctly. And then when he delivers the generator to the client who doesn't want to get involved, he hands over the paperwork and the generator, and the goods are then in that Russian company's name, and they've done absolutely nothing. Is that right, Theodoros?
Absolutely. It was a good job we did for you, eh?
Yeah. More than one.
Yes. Yeah, that works actually very, very well. If we go to the next slide, Nick.
Yeah.
So this is basically a scheme how these IOR transactions in Russia work. So there's always a party in the middle, a Russian company, in many cases then my company, one of my companies. And the whole transaction is structured through this company. So a normal logistics company doesn't have a legal department. We do. We have 2 lawyers full-time in our company. We have a lot of bookkeepers because all these transactions go through our books. And some of them, like the roller coasters, is just massive pieces of equipment that have to go through your books because we have to do the bookkeeping from the GTD, from the customs document. So if you have 500 HS codes, you have 500 entries into your bookkeeping. So these are pretty big jobs. So we have a lot of bookkeepers as well. So a large back office organization to deal with these transactions. We work with a very reliable bank. I've been with them for 15 years. Perfectly in order, they can handle all the money side of these transactions. We do the contractual sides, all the payments, all the certifications, the duties, the VAT. Very, very interesting. We have, I think, the best job in the world. I do commercial and conceptual work. So basically, I think of the solutions for each of our clients because each case is different. We never know what to expect. Every day, there can be a new request with completely new complex issues involved. We have now a shipment from Harrods in London going to a Russian family that bought Christmas decorations for a lot of money. Yeah, expensive. But they don't want to do the customs clearance, of course. So how do you get the stuff into Russia? Not so simple. So we step in, we become the importer of record, we do everything that is necessary, deliver it to the family, please sign the document, that's all you have to do. And that kind of request makes our job fantastic. It is really any kind of equipment, any kind of questions. We do now live plants from Thailand, into Russia. And that's a new experience because phytosanitary, so you have to solve that. We have our own people in the airport. Because since I live in Russia, I believe that vertical integration is very good. So I don't like to work with other people. I like to control my own business completely. So we have our own brokers, our own warehouse, our own truck, everything by ourselves. So then I can give the best service, I believe. Nick?
Okay. Obviously, from our point of view, we are AEO accredited, which means HM Revenue and Customs have audited our processes and accredited us, which is going to be even a bigger thing for UK shipping agents once Brexit is finished. We are able, and we have direct links with the UK customs computers. So we just type in a code and the export or import entry is done immediately. Leading on from Brexit, we must all be aware that exports to Russia normally is fairly complex in its paperwork, but it will have to be more complex from the point of origin here in the UK. A lot of business that goes to Russia gets transshipped, let's say in Poland. So if there's an issue with the paperwork, you've got some time before it gets to Poland to go on to the next stage of the journey before the paperwork can be rectified or even made into a manner that Theodoros can then use upon arrival. Obviously, with Brexit, that now becomes, we're the stopping point here, and the paperwork would have to be correct before it leaves the UK. It's going to be very difficult to change paperwork once the shipment's in transit. We hope to next year, because Theodoros has opened an office in St. Petersburg. Believe it or not, if you've only got small shipments to St. Petersburg, it has to go by road. Even though St. Petersburg is a port, there is no facility at the moment that anybody operates putting groupage shipments together in a container. So once Brexit is out the way, we're going to forge ahead and be with Theodoros so that we can attract smaller shipments, but put them in a container, which will be cheaper to go by ship to St. Petersburg rather than the road option. As you can see, if anybody has wants to store any cargo before the shipment's ready to go out, with very modern warehouse, it will be bonded under the new customs bonding regulations, I would say by March, and we can provide all the services that you would expect from a modern warehouse. Theodoros?
Yes, Nick, thank you. So basically, I think that with the portfolio of services that we have, we offer a big support to our clients. All our services are absolutely compliant. We are fully transparent. So we always give a full quotation, detailed, to the client about what costs are coming his way, because that's also one of these nightmares that people have. Oh, my goods get stuck and I don't know how I end up paying or how much I end up paying. Our company, that does not happen. I give you the breakdown. It tells you this is the duties, this is the certification, this is the transport, everything involved, our expenses, this is your total price. That's it, no more discussion. Unless the client does something wrong, of course, suddenly change the invoice and everything has to start again. But if everything stays the same, you will never have issues about money. Yeah, so it is transparent, absolutely compliant. You can ask all documents after the transaction has taken place. So any customs document, so you can see we use the right HS code, we declare the right value, we declare the right weights, no alterations at all, absolutely correct. So that is very important, we feel, because in this day and age, you have to work this way, but unfortunately, it's not so logical for still many people in Russia.
Okay, and
so you see all our offices there. St. Petersburg is not on it yet because it's still very fresh office, only 6 weeks, but that's there as well. My head office in the Netherlands. I live personally in Germany, so I'm actually in my house, in my home office in Germany now. But my holding company is in the Netherlands, only about 1 hour's drive from where I live, so absolutely perfect for me.
okay.
Yeah, from our point of view, just to conclude, when we speak to a lot of our clients in the UK, we mention Russia and they almost take a step back because they're frightened. Because of the bureaucracy, horror stories of customs issues and maybe things getting confiscated. But with our tie-up with Theodoros and NH Logistics, we want to put that theory to bed, because what we do here, we make sure everything on the UK side is done perfectly correct. We constantly analyse the exporter's export documentation with invoices packing this, because there's various things that need to be shown. And it's a bit of hand-holding really, until the exporters used to do it on a regular basis. So it isn't just the export customs that we look after. We really have a close eye on the export documentation, invoices, and make sure everything is all in line, ready for customs clearance at the other end. Because really up until recently, I'd say 99.9% of all shipments that leave the UK are only up to DAT, which is up to delivered at terminal, up to the customs terminal in Russia, despite whatever the consignee in Russia wants. But now with our services with Theodoros and NH Logistics, we can do exactly what the Russian importer wants. So we can deliver it to their door, as opposed to DAT. So we can look after everything right from point A through to point B.
Yeah, we can also look at unusual situations. We get unusual requests from clients who basically get stuck. We had one company that got stuck for about 3 years. They wanted to rent equipment to clients in Russia. Their accountants, a big accountants company, very big. They said not possible because that would be illegal and the construction, everything is not possible. They came to us after 3 years of talking with lawyers and with accountants, and they explained the problem. And I thought, I think we can help. So we thought of a way, absolutely legal, that made it possible for this client to bring the machines into Russia, but for renting them. So for every client with a specific problem, just contact us. Let's talk about it. If there is a solution, we will find it. If we will find it, we can work together. That will be our reward.
Okay. Well, I think, Alf, you need to unmute, Alf.
Sorry about that. Theodoros, Simon, Nick, thank you very much for a really fascinating presentation. It's certainly not my area of expertise, but I found it really, really interesting. We have a couple of questions, but first, my right as moderator, a quick one from me, if I may. Nick, you said there was no port facilities in St. Petersburg. I don't think you qualified it by saying for EU goods. Is that what you meant, or?
No. Obviously, they're very good port facilities in St. Petersburg, but specifically from the UK,
okay.
by sea transport, there is no service which allows what we call groupage, where we could combine 5 or 6 different shipments to put them in one container to make it cheaper for the exporter and for the importer. By sea freight, if you don't have enough cargo for a 20-foot or a 40-foot container, you are still paying for that space.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know why no one's thought of that, but us and Theodoros are certainly thinking about that for next year.
Yeah.
So that if you've only got, let's say, 2 pallets, which isn't a big shipment, you're having to pay quite a lot of money because it has to go by road freight.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if we can find the market, and then we can have every 2 weeks a container from UK to St. Petersburg, it will be a hell of a lot cheaper, and then that in turn promotes more business.
Great. Okay, thank you. One of the questions, I'll read them out for the audience. They're on the chat room. You can see them there as well. What are some of the key products you see being shipped to Russia from the UK, and what would be your advice for the first-time exporter? Obviously, as the RBCC, we're always trying to attract UK companies to consider Russia as a market, so that's quite sort of a salient point for us. Okay,
well, I mean, products that we find taken to Russia, we find that with shipping, well, hopefully soon, there's going to be a new bottling plant being constructed to the east of Moscow. So once that big piece of machinery is there, what we find is we do a hell of a lot of parts, because obviously the Russian infrastructure is not able to manufacture the parts. So we have a regular supply of parts for big building projects that have happened previously. That's quite a large area.
Okay, great, thank you.
And you mentioned the generators.
Yes.
We see IT equipment, quite a fair bit from England. You do the collections for us, Nick. That's nearly weekly now.
That's right. And if you're a first-time seller to Russia, just contact us. We'll talk through what is required from the UK side. We can ask you to issue some paperwork. We will send that to Theodoros. He checks it from the Russian side, and there's obviously some communication that's got to be done. But once we're satisfied that the paperwork is okay, then it's just a matter of deciding which method of transport you would like to use for your product.
I think that's crucial. Nothing will leave the UK until the paperwork has been analysed by us and Theodoros in Russia.
Very important.
We just try and make the process as smooth as possible. So you don't want anything being stuck on the border, you don't want anything being stuck at customs. So we make sure all the T's are crossed and all the I's are dotted before it leaves the UK.
Yeah, we work with this green light scenario. So basically my people in Moscow decide when the shipment is ready to ship. And then they say, okay, everything is okay. We are happy with this. And we know that we can clear. So this works perfectly. In 19 years, we never lost a shipment. So every shipment we brought to Russia has been customs cleared. Sometimes with great difficulty, but we always managed.
And do you have a sort of rule of thumb for in terms of time it takes?
Well, the preparation depends on the complexity of the product. So in most cases, we are able to say within 24 to 48 hours what is required for a shipment to be imported in Russia. Then, of course, depending on the requirements, we have to get a certificate or a declaration or whatever other documents. That depends on the time frame that is required for this. Testing can take a month. You know, declaration takes us 3 days. And we do most of the customs clearances, nearly all, within 24 hours. Because it's prepared very well.
Yes, thank you.
And
Okay, another question. Sorry, go on. Sorry.
Yeah, we discuss also all our cases with custom before we ship, because in many cases there's issues with the HS code, because HS codes in Russia are longer than the ones that we are used to. So they are more specific. Then we talk with customers, say, look, we have this item, we think it is this, do you agree? And sometimes they agree, sometimes not. You have a healthy discussion, and then you decide, okay, we are going to do it under this number, and then you can finalize basically your job. Then we say to the client, look, this number has to go on the documents, please ship.
Great. Okay, thank you. Another question from one of the listeners. If I were to import from Russia to the UK, will I have to contact NH Logistics and then Aztek International Freight, or will turnkey solution be provided from point A to point B?
Well, I mean, I would suggest that you will have both of our contact details and send both of us the same inquiry. And then we can decide between us which is the best way to answer that. It could be a joint project. It could be that Theodoros would take the lead on that, or it could be that we would take the lead on that. But if we're both contacted at the beginning, we can for sure come up with the best solution.
Yeah, everything is about clear communication. If you communicate clearly with us, we understand exactly what you need, then we can give you a good solution.
Thank you. Okay, and final question here. I'm not quite sure whether to ask it or not, but it looks quite interesting. I just ask you to be very diplomatic how you answer it. In fact, there's a few more questions, but this is, I suppose at the end of the day, it's asking whether there's any graft at the customs, and they're saying, how do you manage any conflicts that come about from requests for graft?
I totally understand the question. It's a very normal question because Russia has a reputation. So have the other countries where we work, except for Belarus, but they have different problems. But yes, that happens. There's no question about that. Basically, what I always say to my client is you have two types of companies in Russia. That is the one who is very well prepared and willing to pay all the taxes and VAT that is supposed to be paid, and does a very good job with the customs clearance. There is the other one that gets into problems and is willing to pay to get out of the problems. Yeah, because it's always the people that have something wrong that are vulnerable for, let's say, unethical requests. Yeah, in our case, it never happens. I have a perfect team in Moscow. We double, triple check everything that we do. We have perfect people in the airport, you know, that work for us for many years. So we know whatever we are going to give to customs is right. And there's nothing they can ask from us.
Yeah, because as we all know, it's illegal for UK companies to pay bribes, and
it's illegal for everybody, and it
for most people. But yeah, I think every country puts different weight on it, and I think it would be
but once you get into the circle, if you get into the circle, you know that customs know that if you have a problem, you pay them, you'll never get out.
Exactly.
You know, and that's horrible.
Good. Thank you for that. Another question: do you provide any insurance, or do you work through brokers?
Yeah,
we provide insurance.
Yeah,
Nick.
Yeah. I mean, for insurance, whilst the cargo's in transit, yes, we can provide that. Depends on the value, depends how it's packed, depends on the product, and depends on the mode of transport. And then it says, do you work with brokers? Well, we think a customs broker, you meaning a customs broker? Well, we are a customs broker here in the UK, and Theodoros is a customs broker in Russia. So
yeah, but on the insurance side, we work with directly with the insurance company. So I think we work with Allianz, not 100% too sure, but big insurance companies. We have a direct line to them. We have open policy. So basically we fill in the jobs that were insured. End of the month, we give it to the insurance company. They tell us how much to pay. That's it. Yeah. But everything where we have a financial liability, we insure always.
Mm-hmm. Good.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you for that. Another question for myself, really. Are you, obviously we leave, finally leave the EU in January. Are you expecting a big bump in trade with Russia, between Russia and the UK, or is that something you're being able to do any sort of useful projections on, or meaningful projections?
I think, unfortunately, the manufacturing sector in this country, unfortunately, I always think is way behind the times. And I think what will happen is, if exports to the EU will decrease, then they will start looking for other markets instead of doing it the other way around.
Yeah.
Now, my take on this is, if there is no deal, that exports to the EU will decrease because our costs will increase for the EU importer, and the EU importer could go, instead of buying from the UK, a Polish importer can easily go to Germany, Belgium, Netherlands, etc. On our imports, I think our imports will remain the same, because if we've got to buy some goods, and it doesn't matter which country in the EU we're buying them from, it's exactly the same. So whether we change the country, the rules are still the same. But for the EU importer, it will have a big change for them, because rather than import from us, they can just go to another EU country, a lot cheaper and a lot less administration. So coming back to the original point, Alf, yep, I think manufacturers will start to look for new markets. I just wish that they would have looked for them last year and be in preparation, but that's not my decision.
Yes, yeah, great. One more, just quick question as well. We all know that customs regulations are bureaucratic in any country you import into, so that's a point we sort of make. That said, Russia has a reputation for being more bureaucratic than most. In your experience, do you see it more, much more of a barrier than other countries, or in the sort of general scheme of things, more or less the same?
Much more complicated.
Much more complicated.
And I always had the hope that every year that things will become easier, but I've been hoping that for about 20 years, and I'm still hoping, because it doesn't get easier. To the contrary, actually, it becomes really more difficult. But still, it's a country with a lot of opportunities. It's a good market. Russians are nice people, good people. Yeah, there is opportunities. Don't be scared, It is possible to build a business in Russia. I have a company with about 40 employees now, a successful company, which I built from scratch. So it is possible to do business. I'm not just a consultant talking about somebody else. I'm talking about my own company that we built, and you can do the same.
Yeah. And why these sort of conversations are always worthwhile. A final point here is in regards to the service that NH offers unaccompanied luggage. Theodore mentions that the service is not so popular at the moment, whereas I know lots of people constantly looking for this kind of service. If we can get connected, I could potentially help out with it.
No, great, fantastic. You see, the point is, of course, when people travel a lot, Amas, tourists, the Orient Express, and you mentioned it, all the fancy things that people like to do, the volumes are huge.
Yes.
Now, at the moment, the volumes are not huge. Yeah. We get incidental requests, but there is not a lot. I could not live from this.
Yes, yeah, good. Okay, well, there's no more questions in the chat room. Ladies and gentlemen out there, this is a chance. You're welcome to ask any questions direct to the panelists if you like. while we wait, and if you'd like to do so, please use the hands up function on the Zoom app. That would be great. I'll have a look for that. Maybe as we wait to see if anyone does want to ask anything direct, maybe a few closing comments from the panelists. Theodore, would you like to just say a few final words, maybe?
Yes, because you see, you are of course the Russian Chamber of Commerce. We look at the other countries as well. You know, the CIS, the mentality and the way of working is very, very similar to Russia. So there are many other interesting markets, you know, Azerbaijan, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan. And you know, there's plenty of money in Kazakhstan, plenty of money in Azerbaijan. Yeah, so there's rich countries. Ukraine is really opening up. Ukraine is now our second market because we're really booming there. We have a lot of shipments to Ukraine. So there's a lot of possibilities. I control everything from Moscow, the whole operation, because Russian is the common language. Mentality is the same. Nobody better than a Russian to speak with other people from the former Soviet Union. So, but for the members of your chamber, of course, look around. There is other countries there.
Great, thank you, Theodoros. Nick and Simon, any final comments?
Well, I think from hopefully what we've said today on both sides, that I think it's really important is attention to detail when you're shipping into Russia. I think that is very important, and that's what we really look closely at. If you're concentrating on the details of everything, then it will be nice and smooth, no issues at all.
That's quite right. That's quite right. The detail, well, the devil is in the detail, as they say. So hopefully, I mean, if you need to contact us personally, we'd be more than welcome to take a phone call, email, whichever method you'd prefer. And hopefully it's been of interest to people. And the real thing here is really, don't worry about if you're thinking of shipping to or from Russia, it's not as bad as you think. And hopefully we can point you in the right direction. Thank you very much.
Okay. Well, again, Theodoros, Nick, Simon, thank you for a really, really interesting and insightful presentation. We don't seem to have any final questions, so I think we'll draw stumps here. For anyone who wants to get in contact with any of the speakers, please go obviously direct to them, or if you don't have their details in a couple of days' time, please get in contact with us and we will connect you. Of course, as I said at the start, we will post this webinar on the website tomorrow, and I'm sure the speakers will be happy to publicize the presentation. Is that all right?
Yeah,
Of
sure.
course.
That's great. Okay, so you'll see the presentation posted alongside with the webinar. Thank you, of course, to the audience for joining us, making time in your busy schedules. Always appreciated, and I hope you enjoyed the talk as much as I did. I hope you will join us for our program tomorrow. It continues tomorrow with Into Matrix, and that starts at 1 o'clock UK time, 4 o'clock Moscow time. And then on Friday, I hope you'll join us for the Russo-British Forum, which we are organizing in collaboration with Synergy University. All the details, as usual, on the website. Please check it out. And if you can, be delighted if you would join us. Once again, everyone, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And have a good
Thank you,
time.
Thank you
everybody.
so much.
Bye-bye. Thank you very much, everyone.
Pleasure.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.